Good to see you, bud.
You too, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm busy. I've never been this busy, but I'm grateful.
You always look good.
You too.
What do you do? You working out? You running? What do you do? Everything?
When I have time of late, I'm headed to Gold's. Um,
In Venice?
yeah,
How's Gold's in Venice? Is that still cool or no?
Gold's in Venice is awesome.
Is it? No, not a lot of people with like cell phones and shit, like fake influencer shit.
I mean, you're gonna find that anywhere in LA, no matter what gym you're at.
I think everywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that just the name of the game now in the gym? I mean, you always have like the most kind of um I don't want to say narcissistic, but so wrapped up people who are so wrapped up in themselves at the gym anyway. So the phones were inevitable, right?
Very, very much so. I'm
It's not a
actually gonna
bad thing, but just people, you're there to, work on your body. So
Yeah, and a lot of the people who are there are fitness gurus. Like a lot of them are
yeah.
like really, really good.
Oh, the Golden Venice. Yes, that's always been like a legendary gym. That's why I kind of asked because it's like it's a real mainstay to the whole city.
Yeah, yeah. Golden Venice is it's a unique place.
Cool, man.
I changed
Um,
my camera just in case you do use video. You have me looking at you now.
I do use video.
There we go.
Justin, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And this is a good way for us to get started. When you go to somebody's home and you see that they collect a bunch of stuff, what do you think? What's the first thing that you think of?
It really depends on the person, but the first thing that usually goes through my
Yeah.
soul is oy vey. Oy vey. And there's levels to the oy vey.
Yeah.
Uh, they're collectors who understand their collection and they have spaces allocated for their collection and they treat their collection like it's a true collection. And then there's people who are on the complete other side of it who have collected everything.
Yeah.
They think it's all important and they're emotionally attached to it. And it's going to be a little bit of a wrestling match there to figure out where it's going to go.
Have you actually had to have back and forths with clients about the pain of letting stuff go?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think everybody in their life has something that is painful for them to let go of. I mean, my parents are actually dealing with this now, surprisingly. They just sold their house that they've been in for 20 somewhat years. And I have gone home every Thanksgiving like a good boy just to see them. And when I'm home, I will usually do some kind of decluttering work with them.
Yeah.
So I thought their place was going to be in pretty good shape whenever they did move or God forbid pass away. Cause I mean, I'm 44 now, right? Like
Sure.
I could die tomorrow. My parents could die tomorrow. Like who the hell knows? So I always thought of it like it'll help them if they move and if it'll help me if God forbid something happens. And my dad calls me yesterday, Justin, you need to come home. We have so much stuff and we don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, Dad, can you imagine if I wasn't helping you for the last 20 years downsize?
What's the
So
stuff? What's the stuff? Not to get too personal, but like, do your parents have like tchotchkes and stuff?
nonsense. Their stuff was nonsense. It
Yeah.
wasn't even like good stuff. It was glassware and china and pots and pans
Right.
and books and just stuff that's been collected, but like none of it matters. It's usually more of the other side of like, God, we're doing something pretty extreme in our lives, and how could we divert our attention, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, did you have any like things that you cared so much about when you were younger that you held on to?
It's funny. I got the call yesterday. We're going through the remnants of what's left in your room. Do you want your baseball cards and
Right.
basketball cards from the 80s? I'm like,
Right.
no, Dad, throw them away. Like, who needs baseball or basketball? Yes, of course, right?
Yeah.
Like, those were things that were sentimental to probably you as well, and me when I was younger. But I wasn't even a big sports guy.
Yeah.
I think I just collected them because everyone else was collecting them.
No, they're fun. The cards are fun. They usually have like good action pictures. I get it. I get it.
I
And
had I had a collection of He-Man action figures. I had
sure.
every He-Man action figure ever made, and my
Yeah.
parents threw those away in their first move, and I was really upset about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not. It's funny. I'm not a big collector of much of anything. I'm not really attached to anything. Like you could come in here to my home today and be like, Justin, you're moving, and you have to take 10 things with you. What's it going to be? And I
Yeah.
would. It would take me no time.
Now, you've been doing OCD experience a long time. So when did that click where you're like, I'm getting rid of all of it. I'm free. Like, this is it. When was that moment? Were you living cluttered or something, or was it a gradual thing?
No, I always was pretty minimal.
Yeah.
I just had this idea that like the less I had, the easier it would be to navigate life. It was always that way. And I
Mhm.
think it came from growing up in a household where my parents would they would bicker over silly little things. Like my mom would hide her jewelry instead of buying a safe for the house. She would hide her jewelry in cereal boxes or in the oven or in weird places, and it would disappear.
Mhm.
Disappear, meaning like my mom would just lose it in
She
her house.
lost it. Right. Yeah.
So, ooh, so as
Do you have
I,
a cat? Is there a cat over there?
that's a Lupe,
Oh.
my dog.
Oh.
As I got older, I was like, I don't want to be tied down to anything. I don't need any of this to hold me down in my life at all.
Yeah.
So I think it was college when I went to NYU. It was like the first time in my life where I really had to like take my stuff somewhere else, you know?
Uh-huh.
So I did. And I remember bringing like 3 huge army duffel bags to NYU and
Yes.
all my CDs. And
Right.
that was important at the time.
Yes.
I remember getting to the dorms being like, where the hell is all this going to go? I mean, I had this much closet space. I had 3 drawers.
Right.
So I think it was like the beginning of NYU when I moved to New York at 18, where I was like, oh my God, if I have to continue doing this in my life all the time, I'm going to go mad.
Right.
So I think it was after that freshman year, I just started to like not care about stuff. I care about my own things. I treat things very well in general in my life if I do buy into something or I'm interested in something.
Uh-huh.
But it's very few things that I'm not attached to.
So is it all hoarding? Is this really just all hoarding? Because a lot of people who I speak with who collect certain things at a certain point, like it absolutely is. Why do you need if you get the one thing that you love, why do you think it's so hard for collectors to stop? If they can find the one thing where it's like, yes, this is the holy grail, I got it. Why the compulsion to keep going? Why do people who collect He-Man action figures, comic books, Louis Vuitton purses, why do they need to keep going at it to where it's just becomes something where it's all consuming? The closet becomes a nightmare. The room where you started collecting and it was all in a nice glass case becomes a room full of boxes. I mean, this is the type of stuff that I talk about with people on this show. Where do you think it stops and starts? Did I just say where it stops and starts to become hoarding, or what do you think?
You know, my personal experience with hoarders, let's call it, because I wouldn't classify collectors as hoarders. I
I'm not
think
using it as a derogatory term either,
I don't think you are, and nor
because
is
I'm guilty. I would be guilty of this description just now, by the way. And my
I.
wife would definitely, Sarah would definitely agree.
I've seen your house and your home and some of your collections, and it was a long time ago. And
Yeah.
I think at the time it was overwhelming,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen it in a minute,
Oh,
so I can't
it's a
judge.
mess.
What do
Yeah.
I usually judge? I empathize or sympathize usually with people. Um, but I believe the crossover happens when an emotional aspect of someone's life isn't being tended to,
Uh-huh.
or when someone's not feeling seen or heard, or they don't know how to use their voice or their soul to find any bigger purpose.
Yeah.
So I think they dive into something that they feel like is going to bring them joy, which does to a certain extent. But as we know from doing the work, that joy has to come from inside. And if you're not finding joy inside, the external things that you're bringing into your life are going to create minimal excitement, but not lasting joy. And I think what happens is people get caught up in that cycle of that hit. We're in a society that's all about hits, right? We get hits from the internet, from Instagram, from our text messages going off, from our emails buzzing, from whatever alerts are happening. It's a similar hit as a hoarder would or a collector would from buying the newest action figure or the newest comic book or whatever they think that next, as you said, holy grail is. But there is no holy grail, right? I was talking with a friend last night about the show Pippin because they were asking me, I don't know if you're familiar with the musical, but they were asking me if I'm excited about all the things going on in my life because I have a lot of really great things going on at the moment. And I said, I'm not really excited. I'm grateful. I'm happy, but I think that that excitement kick changes as our life changes. And I don't think people are in tune really with their own journey.
Yeah.
So they get lost in their stuff.
What
And
about the idea that your identity, like there's something firmly rooted in the sense that the collection becomes the identity? So how do you like break that connection that you have with stuff where it stops becoming the mirror that you think it is and it's just accumulation and consumption? Because you're saying society of hits. I mean, it's for people who collect, and this could be watches, this could be people who have cellars full of wine that they're never going to drink.
I see that, by the way.
Yeah,
Really,
artists who have to have, people who collect art, they have to have like the like big storage closets where they roll the pieces in and out. People who collect, sculpture or cars, like it's just a never-ending pursuit where like, where you want to be that person, like the person that has this or the person who got that. I mean, a big part of it is just like the consumption, like the hunt, like the constant, like once you get something, it's like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about that anymore. On to the next. Like, how can you just like shock the system to not have that reaction when you love something so much?
I think it goes back to, again, a lot of people that I know who collect things are collecting it because they're hoping one day it's going to be valuable. That's like a big part of it for some people. Not, oh, this is valuable to me because it brought joy to me in my life at some point. So for example, literally on this desk over there, I went to eBay the other day because I was thinking about things in my life that I had or collected that disappeared from my life, AKA parents threw them away.
Right.
And I bought, do you remember McDonald's had these action figures that were shapes of McDonald's products, French fries, hamburger, you name it?
Sure.
You remember these?
I mean, yeah. If you showed them to me, I'd be like, yeah, of course. Uh-oh.
So remember this euphoric feeling that you would get to see?
Is that like a Lego piece? I don't even know what that
looks
is.
like it, but it transforms into like a little robot.
Oh, you were doing a deep dive on eBay the other night. You were like,
right?
So like, you really went down the rabbit hole.
Remember, I don't collect things, but there was something that brought me joy about remembering that one day, and when I opened up the McDonald's box, there was these like cute little things, right? I'm not going to go online and buy every McDonald's.
There are people that do.
Correct. And again, going back to your original question, I think it comes from the need, that satiation of, I need something more. I need something else. I'm not getting attention from my wife. I'm not getting the accolades that I want at work. I'm not feeling great. My dog thinks I'm an asshole because I don't spend enough time walking her. Like those little things, I think, build up in people and they don't have a way to express it. So they start buying stuff like this until they're filled with it. And they still haven't had that true sense of being seen, or that true sense of elation from feeling like they did something worthwhile.
Yeah.
I really believe that people bury themselves in these things because they're not getting something else that they want from their life.
Yes, that's very dark to think about.
I know. It is.
Especially coupled when a lot of the reasons that people collect certain things is because of something that was specific to their childhood.
Well, you just nailed it, right? Like if we're going along with this thought process of something filling that void in order to feel good, simply put, a lot of it does come from our childhood. A lot of it comes from neglect, abuse, the brother getting more attention than the other brother, the girl breaking up with you at a young age. So, you buy this thing for her, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, that made me feel good. So all of a sudden you own every one of those things. I think it is. I think it's dark, which is why like the work that I've done with my company, I'm grateful that people are like, what do you like about doing this consulting business? You have all these other things going on in your life. I'm like, I keep going back to it because I get to help people. Even when I was a child actor and performing and singing, um, that was the best part of doing it. I'd see people change. I'd see
Yeah.
people's mindset shift or whatever was moving in through them, warp. And I think stuff does the same thing for people.
It does. I've gone through a long time in my life where I like to be around stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes people feel safe, even though it really does the exact opposite if you're truly thinking about the freedom of what not having a lot of stuff does, right? And by the way, I'm not swaying people, if anyone's listening to this right now, right? I'm not swaying people from buying anything or thinking about things in their lives that are important to them and why. I think the bigger question is if you are going to be collecting or creating space in your life with yourself or someone else, because most people are sharing spaces with other people. So that's a whole other conversation, is how does that affect other people in the household?
Right.
Like truly think about where it's coming from. But I don't think people want to. I don't think people want to really do that, because then what it does is it takes you back, as you said, to like some of the darker, deeper stuff of like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to think about this. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
I'd rather just buy my action figure toys.
Right. That's like the identity. That's where the sense of self comes into play with the stuff that you have.
Yeah. 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 And then there's some people that just don't care, nor will they ever care. And they will ask for our assistance with my business.
Mm-hmm.
And I will help them understand their space with the stuff that they have that they want to incorporate into their space. And hopefully there is a solution in the space that we're working in.
Yeah.
Because when there's not, then the light has to come on, right? There's a point where you run out of space, right? I mean,
Yes.
we live in one of the most expensive places in the world.
Tell me about
When
it.
it comes
Yeah.
to square footage. It's
Right.
like, what are you filling your space up with and why?
Right. Have you had to have some like real tough moments with people? I mean, how like there has to be, because it's hard to let go, especially for stuff that you care about, because there is that fear that it's gonna be 2 weeks later and you'll be like, oh, why did I do that? That's
Yeah,
terrible.
but you said it perfectly, Adam. They're afraid to let go, but they're
Yeah.
not afraid to let go of the stuff. They're afraid to let go of the reason why they started it in the first
That's
place.
right. That's right.
Right? The stuff is just the metaphor or the accomplice of where it began. And let's jump to the other side of it, right? We're on the dark side of it. There is a side of it that can be euphoric and can be enlightening and can feel good in a sense of like, oh, I'm not burying something with this, right?
Yeah.
I collect candles. I collect bath bombs. Call it what you may. I like taking baths and I like lighting candles. But in my home, there is a designated space for these items. So I have probably in my home right now 25 candles, but they fit into a space down in my kitchen area, off about this wide, yay tall. That's it. When another candle comes in, I take one out, I move it into my house somewhere and I light it, or I gift it to somebody. There's a concept.
Candles, huh?
Yeah, I like candles.
So wherever you go, if you see a candle and you'll like pick it up and stuff like that.
It will depend on, again, how much space I have. See, I'm healed, thank God. I did a lot of work. My childhood trauma is buried. I had all the conversations with all the people.
Yeah.
So like I'm not picking things up to fill that void anymore. I'm picking it up because I truly love it and I want to experience it, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference, right? If I were to buy all let's go back to this. If I were to buy all of these and every night before I go to bed, I'm like, ooh, let's play. I'm gonna fight you and I'm gonna blow you up and boom, boom, boom. And if that's happening and I'm creating joy from playing with something, it's a different story than just having something on the shelf and taking pride in it, right?
Right.
So they're two different movements, I feel. So if you're the collector that is collecting to collect because there's value possibly, that's a different conversation than the collector that's collecting because they're filling a void with something that they're unaware of, right?
Yeah. I like talking about the people, the void filling, because I feel like that's half true with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's half true with a lot of people. who are into accumulating stuff.
Okay.
There is a factor of like rarity and um there's a big taste level to it to where you know it's gonna hold on to its value and you know it's gonna that it's culturally valuable too. I mean, at a certain point, it's tchotchkes. I mean, you're holding up a McDonald's tchotchke. I mean, you know, like that person who sold that to you is surprised that they sold it to you. Okay.
Of
I'm
course.
talking about things that like actually have cultural currency. Um, everything from like, you know, I mean, I just learned that um, an original Super Mario game cartridge is worth as much as an Action Comics #1 in the market. Hundreds of thousands of dollars those things are fetching now. So they're starting to become currency. All right. So I'm talking more about stuff like that. Like, and for people who let's just go down that road. For people who are into Nintendo cartridges, they're gonna get the Mario one and be like, yes. And some people will be like, this is all I need. I got it. It's going in a safety deposit box. Boom. But then there's the other type of like, oh no, I need the Legend of Zelda now. And now I need Mario 2 and 3. So I have the whole Mario set and I
Yeah.
have it all on my shelf right here. And I'm the Mario guy. And then, oh, I need all of those Metroid. And then, oh, I need all the Nintendo Power Mag. And then, like, down, 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 down,
And they
down.
got the glove, then they got the gun, they got
Yes,
the gyro
yes, dude.
robot.
Yes.
Yes.
Why? It can't just be void. I mean, obviously, there's people that keep it dead stock and like, no, I have this. And maybe when, you know, I'll either keep it in the family, which is something I want to get to, I'll either keep it in the family or I'll sell it. And if, you know, if I need a retirement fund when I'm older or my, you know, I want to, I move on to other things and I want to buy a watch or I want to buy a car, or I want to buy a house. Or, you
Yep.
know, some people have collections that are sold on Sotheby's. There was like somebody who had a supreme collection of like stuff from when they first started, from when the company first started, and they sold it at Sotheby's. And it was like a crazy amount of money, like a real amount of money.
Yeah.
So there are people like that. Um, so that sort of compulsion is so fascinating because it's the same with people who do collect stuff. Why not just sell it and put it in like the market or something? Like, why the need to show the number, so to speak? Like, why that? Like, why the need to like constantly have your valuable stuff around you, thinking that it's going to appreciate in value down the road, like the speculation of it?
Yeah. You know,
Would you just suggest just sell it all and just stop it?
it depends on who you are, depends on what you do, and it depends on how much time you have. I don't have the time nor the energy to even think about things that way. But I don't.
Right.
But I do respect, and as I said before, empathize and sometimes sympathize
Yeah.
with people who do, because I understand it, right?
I think people who collect things are get to a point where they're burdened by it.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
becomes a real burden because something new comes around, or you see something like, oh, that's somebody selling that now. Oh man, oh, this is around now. Oh no. I hear that a lot. It's more that seems like more of the reaction when there's something new that, you know, is a piece to add for a collection. It's more like a, oh no, man, I gotta, oh man, that
But
that
but
sort of
but
thing.
I love that because like you're a collector. I know you can collect some things, right?
Quasi hoarder at this point. I love my stuff. I love being around cool stuff. I love
Yeah.
being inspired by cool stuff.
And
But
you
you
have
know what
good
else?
taste. You have good taste. I've
I
seen them.
try.
Like
I think that's subjective. I try.
it
I
is
try
subjective.
to have stuff where I'm like, oh, you know what? If I don't like this anymore, I know that I can get rid of it, and somebody would really want this.
Yeah. You know, I think it's double-sided, right? I think people do become burdened by their
Yeah.
collections. They can become burdened by their collections. But I need to also state that that's still a choice.
Yes. Right. That's
Still
a
a choice
hard choice to free yourself of a burden that has become so ingrained with your personality.
that you've created,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's also a difference between the creation that someone else passed along to them. That's a hard one too, by the way, that we
Go
haven't
on.
talked about, right?
Like the pathology of it you're talking about?
No, the uh,
Hmm.
generational aspect of it. Maybe we're saying
Right.
the same thing, but
Yeah.
like my dad, for example, this isn't true. Actually, this is true. My dad collected coins, right? I collected coins at one point because I went through his coin collection like a little shit when I was a kid and rated it. He was most likely going to pass that along to me. If I got my dad's coin collection in good condition, what would I do with it?
Right.
What am I going to put it in a cabinet?
Right.
Right? Like, am I going to start collecting more coins?
Right.
So that's a choice where I hear a lot of friends and clients are like, yeah, I inherited this from my parents. It's every National Geographic, every print ever printed.
Wow.
There is a beauty to that in its own way,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
If you're the type of person that loves aesthetic and pleasing spaces, you would then be like, wow, how am I going to incorporate the National Geographics in my home? All however many thousands and thousands of them are there. So that's a different conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas like if it's art, we're going back to art, art's passed down, art's then repurchased and bought. Some places, some people have enough space to hang all of their art. And as you said, most people store their art.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because one day they're going to say, oh man, I bought that first Banksy
Mm-hmm.
when he was who? Like no one knew who he was. And then I got, so they continue to build upon these things that they feel connected to because again, they were seen. They were made to feel like they were smart because they got the one up on something first. So I think that the mental journey with it is different for everybody based off of where you're coming from and where you want to go to.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of collectors think about where they're going to, right? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you forget the why. And I'm
Right.
a why person. I'm a why for everything. Why is this happening? Why is this what's the what's the
Yeah.
purpose? So I don't think enough people ask themselves those questions. And if they do, the answers are still short because they're giving some answer that they perceive as real, but they haven't really thought about it.
Because even if you have all the space in the world, if you have this bug, you're gonna run out of space.
Eventually everybody runs out of space. I mean,
Yes.
I have clients that have studio apartments and I have clients that have $40 million homes,
Right.
and I will tell you something. The difference between the people who have a studio apartment and the $40 million homes in terms of their stuff is no different.
Right.
The only difference is one has more space to bring more in.
To fill up.
Correct. And I will say, usually have a lot more headaches when they're trying to figure out where they're moving to, where they're downsizing to, where they're going. If they meet someone new, they have freaking God knows how many storage units that they don't even know what's in them. So then all of a sudden you're spending money on things that you're not even aware of that you have anymore. So again, it's just a mindset to me. And I have no issue with anyone's mindsets and how they live their lives. Like I fully support all of the people from A to Z, except when I'm working with them, the questions come out of like, why, who, what, where, when,
Yeah.
you know?
What is the reaction of when you do convince somebody to let go of stuff and live organized, or do you prefer organized or minimal? What do you prefer? What's the lifestyle? What do you think is the best way to use your living space?
First, I want to say I never convince anybody of anything. It's usually me having just conversations with them, giving them perspective. And then hopefully, if and when they're ready, they will come to their own conclusion of why they need to do X, Y, or Z. I'm like the personal trainer. You come to the gym, you want to work out, I'm going to push you a little harder.
Yeah.
You go to the gym by yourself, you're not going to have someone pushing you as hard.
Right.
So I'm just that little. And then to answer the second part of the question is, I like to think of it as clutter free first, because just because you're clutter free doesn't mean you're organized.
Right.
You could declutter a space and then still have to figure out how to organize it.
Yeah.
So once the decluttering part happens, of just basically, and the decluttering could be decluttering is just understanding what you have in every area of your life. So once you know, let's call it the puzzle box, right? You see the puzzle box at the front, you see what the puzzle is going to be, and you're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But then you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, that's 500 pieces. Oh, that's 1,000 pieces. Oh, that's a 10,000 piece puzzle. So once we decide what we want to do with the 10,000 pieces, we put all the pieces up and in best order we can. And then you start building the puzzle. And everyone's puzzle is going to look different in terms of how it comes together. But at the end, everyone's puzzle is going to look exactly the same. We all have the same stuff. We all deal with the same things. We all, we all are integrated into it. It's just how you want to see that puzzle in the end. Do you want it hung up? If the puzzle's done, do you want to use the glue and frame it? Do you want to dismantle the whole puzzle and put it back in the box and set it on the shelf? Or do you want to just give the puzzle away to somebody else because the puzzle's done? So it's really just, that's the process. And everyone's different because everyone's in a different place.
What about like having to throw away stuff that like is to anyone else has zero value, but to you is everything? Like, I feel like there are people out there that collect stuff that has no value at all, and they're just holding on to it because they love it.
Yeah.
But you would come in and be like, we got to get rid of this. I mean, if there is a serious clutter problem, not like their favorite thing in the whole world, but all the other stuff around it. And you're saying, you know what, let's get rid of it. Let's give it away. Let's sell it. And no one wants it. You can't make any money from it. Can you convince somebody to throw that away?
You can't convince anybody of anything they're not willing to do.
That's hard. Having to say, oh, I got to throw, either I keep this here and I bump my foot into it all the time, or it falls off the shelf, or I throw it away. That's hard.
What's hard is me watching people have to grapple with that for themselves.
Yes, it's hard. My brother he was moving once and he had a whole box of like old ass Marvel comics. He just like threw them in the bay. He didn't care about selling them. They're all valuable now. But he was just like, forget this. And he just threw them in the water. I mean, that's like pollution. I get it. But like, he just didn't want to carry them around anymore. And
Yeah,
that's so foreign. Like, when I think of that, that is like, I'm like, are you kidding me? You threw all of those away? That's crazy. But sometimes I'm like, let me just throw all this away. Let me just get rid of all of this stuff. But then I look around, I'm like, oh, I love this stuff. And I love seeing people living in their space. So I love photos of people who have books all over their desk or stacked in the walls. I love when people just have like full shelves of interesting objects. Like, I love seeing that, but I also feel such a burden of having cool stuff around me. I see people who live in minimal spaces, and I literally have a physical reaction of like a deep breath. I'm able to take a deep breath sometimes. You know?
that's such a beautiful way to put it. I share that same sentiment with friends and clients all the time. It's really just how you're built.
Yeah.
I understand where your brother was on that day, right? He was sick of it. He was just sick of it.
Get it. Yeah.
He was sick of it. And you could get sick of anything. You could walk into your kitchen one day and be like, I'm so sick of these plates. I've been using them and seeing them for so long, and you just toss them. Yes. Right. But we're kind of going back again. It's like, we are only where we are in the moment where we are. It's that simple. If you want to breathe more in your space and you have a home full of books and you can't breathe, it might be time to start donating some books. But if you're physically incapable of doing it, that goes back to the mental health part of it. It's hard. It's a very, very distinct breaking point. And you can't make anyone do these things.
It's hard. It's ingrained in their identity.
It can be because of some of the things that we talked about before, right? Where it came from. That's the identity part.
Right.
If it's gotten to that place. But the gentle part of it is you know that innately most people don't change. People can change, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And all we have until we don't is time.
Right. Right.
So it's just a question of like what we want to do at that time, what we want to do with our space in the given moment that we have it,
Yeah.
because that's always going to change, right? I'm ready I love my home. I've been here for 10 years. I'm ready for a change, right? Nothing in my home is holding me back from that at the moment, right? The only thing holding me back is the fact that we're in just a crazy time in terms of like all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
But my stuff is not going to be the thing that's going to like prevent me from moving, right?
Yeah.
However, there are people that are completely debilitated by the thought of that. And I think to wrap this part of it up is I think the only time that changes is when it has to for this type
Yeah.
of group of people.
Yeah.
There is a death in the family, or they have to move, as like my parents are moving because they don't need a 5-bedroom house anymore for 2 people, and their niece and nephew live up the street in Miami. So these life changes occur, and whether or not they're ready or not, then they're faced with it. So I think it comes down to distinct forks in the road. You make the choice because you're ready to shift out of something that you've been doing that might not be serving you anymore, or you are faced with a conflict or a struggle so hard that you have no choice but to do it in that moment as well. Or you're like, you know what? I'm different. I don't want to collect this anymore, and I'm ready to pass it along to my brother or my nephew, or sell it because you know what? It's valuable enough now. The perceived value of what I'm going to get for it now equates to how long I've been holding on to it, which is something we didn't talk about, right? People buy things. You brought it up a little bit. People buy things thinking, God, these are going to be worth so
Yes.
much money one day.
Yes.
And they hold it in hopes that it's going to change value. And you know what? It may never not. But as you brought up, there are moments in time where they do. And people can buy a home with their collections, which is where some of the people who collect falter, because they think that is going to be the ultimate return.
You're saying like people who think, oh, I'm going to be able of the speculators, the ones that say this is going to have value, this is going to have more value than if I just put it in a savings account right today.
Because the value should come from yourself. It shouldn't come from the idea of what something can be. And by the way, that's applicable to like humanity,
Right.
applicable to finding a partner. You know, if you don't have your perceived value internally first, the external is going to come off as chaos. And I think that's what most people miss in their process. I don't think people think about it. We're not taught these things. Our parents' generation didn't share feelings or emotions at all. At least mine really did. My mom and I get along well, but the dads, like my dad, does not talk about any of this stuff. So where do we learn it? Right? We have to experience it. We have to share it. We have to talk about it with people who also are moving through the same thing. And I'm grateful that I've gotten to talk to thousands and thousands of people about their stuff and understand the mentality and be able to sympathize and empathize with them and where they are and why they're there, and that, I think that gives me the understanding of like the journey for a lot of the collectors that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they become like totems and stuff. But here's the thing. I recently realized that my daughter doesn't want any of my stuff. So now it's like, well, okay, like not like I've ever been accumulating things to pass down to somebody. I've always kind of thought about it like this is how it started. It's like, oh, I just love having like cool stuff around me. It started that way, and then it's like, oh, this cool, the person who made this cool thing also makes this cool thing, and it's like it's a slow kind of appreciation of either an aesthetic or an artist or an idea, a writer, whatever. And then slowly but surely there's the notion that I needed to have more stuff to complete something. It might have become that for a while, but now I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to still have what I used to be into.
That's
I think I'm in a stage now where I might want to start moving my interests and getting rid of some of my stuff.
And that evolution for you came naturally.
From just having a lot of stuff. But I love having a lot of stuff, but my daughter doesn't want it. So,
And
like she's not into it. So what am I, I don't know. I think I've gotten all the things that I really have been jazzed about, mostly maybe onto other things. I don't really know. But there's just this thought process that I'm having. It's like, why not just get rid of it now? And if I still want to collect something, start something new. That kind of is exciting too. I mean, the thought of letting go is so alluring. The thought of letting go and living clean is just so alluring. But isn't that, oh, you come home and it's like sometimes, doesn't it sometimes feel like you're like in a hotel? If you come home and you're just kind of, there's my bed, here are my 6 shirts, here's my 2 pencils that I keep one pen in case. It's like you're living every day is like, oh, I need this, so I have to go to the store and get it now.
so what you're sharing right now is a lot of people's dreams.
Yeah.
The hotel and have minimal stuff, and also
Yes.
people's nightmares, right?
Yeah.
And I want to
Right.
go back to a question about Goldie. Um, are there are there anything? Is there anything in your daughter's life that she does like to have?
Yeah.
Right? Are there things she likes to collect?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? Like she doesn't want your stuff. She doesn't see the value in that yet.
Right. Yeah.
I have clients whose kids are hoarders already.
Yes. I mean,
Why
if
is that?
you look at my daughter's room, it's kind of a mess. But yes, I mean, and by the way, she doesn't have to collect anything. I'm not so sure I want to pass this down to her.
It's not something that you get to choose though.
Right. For
What
sure.
happens is we, as you know, you're very smart.
But exposure does it too. Like just having it, just her being like, I see this every day. This is all my dad's stuff. That could kind of penetrate, no?
Oh, more than you could
Imprint.
possibly imagine. We are a
Right.
product of our environments.
Right.
DNA factors a lot into that as well. So we're born with a little bit of that, some more than others based off the parent and where they're coming from and their history with whatever is in their DNA.
Scarcity, you got to like accumulate.
So I have a client whose she has 2 kids, a boy and a girl, 2 years apart. The older daughter, who's only like 8 or 9, is a hoarder.
Like
She's a
what,
hoarder.
like stacks of newspapers, like magazines and junk mail and stuff, that level yet?
It doesn't matter. It's like it could be anything. She doesn't want to get rid of anything.
Yeah.
Like toys, stuffed animals, books, paperwork, drawings, action figures,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas her son is the complete opposite, the younger one. And usually this happens this way. It's usually the younger one. If the older one collects and has a large amount of things, the younger sibling usually goes the exact opposite way.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really interesting to watch that play out because these things are being taught by their parents.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right.
So I urge people to be really, really keen on that because
It's always childhood. It's always like I collect this now because when I either was young, I didn't have it, which is a lot, or when I was young, I did have it. And I want that. I want to hold on to that.
yeah, and that one thing could be triggered by, for example, for me, thank God it didn't, but like my He-Mans all disappearing. The castle of Grayskull, gone. All the figures that I cared so much about, gone. So
Yeah.
I have this trauma that hasn't been dealt with yet where I asked my parents, why did you get rid of my action figures? Oh, we didn't need them anymore. Oh, no, you did. No, you did not.
Right.
You're never again are you gonna
Right.
do that to me. I'm gonna hold on to all of it, right? Like that's where that starts.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like for me, it's so important when I work with family. You notice me putting everything back exactly where I found it.
I love it.
By the way, that's the other side of the spectrum. Is like being able to have conversations with your kids about these things, teaching them the value of items or a perceived value of that in regards to the space that we have. because most people don't think about it that way. Most people can't process it that way. And most kids definitely don't understand it.
No.
And it just becomes a habit. It becomes a learned thing.
Have you had any people say, you know what, I can't do this. I can't. Sorry. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah.
Okay, so how's like that back and forth? Without getting specific, how is that process? Do you just kind of, is it after like the initial consultation where you like see their space and you're urging them, or do you get down? Have you ever been like down the road and then finally like someone's like, no, 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 I can't do this. I can't do this.
Yes. This happens. It doesn't happen often, but this happens usually when one spouse wants it more than another.
Yeah.
Will be brought in and they'll get excited. They're a little, hesitant, but they're willing. And then we start the process of decluttering. And then before you know it, they're like, no, 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 I don't think this is the time. I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean we need to move this or get rid of this? And in my early career doing this, I would kind of push back and I would be like, well, we could do this and da-da-da. And I will do that a little bit. But now I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they're left with themselves.
Yeah.
There's no one pushing against them, which is where it starts.
Yeah.
They want that. They want that.
What do you mean? Like they want to have the conflict of like, no, this is my stuff. If you want me, you come with it. I come with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you surrender to somebody's own experience of something rather than pushing them in the direction of where you think they should go, and this again applies to anybody in any relationship, they're left to their own devices.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer on what's not working. If you continue to try to make it work, won't work. So you have to do opposite action. If you're not doing opposite action on things in your life that aren't serving you, you're going to be stuck in the same place.
Yeah.
So
I'm not even so sure people would like, if really push came to shove, I don't think if I got rid of all of my stuff, if I sold it all or just moved on from it, I'm not so sure that I would be unhappy. And there was a time when I'm like, yeah, of course I'd be sad if I didn't have XYZ anymore. Yes, of course.
yeah,
That's my
buddy,
stuff.
of course you wouldn't be unhappy now. You're doing a pod about the evolution of this. You have figured out a way for yourself to channel this now in a different conversation.
Yes. I used to want to have I needed to have the thing for it to, I needed, like, there was some like possession thing about it,
Yeah,
which I still have here and there. And I think that's cool and everything, but I think it's definitely changing. I don't think I wouldn't say I'm getting rid of it. It's definitely changing.
well, I don't think anyone ever gets rid of anything. I think the emotional value shifts, right? How it affects our soul shifts. And I think as we get older, you start having different perspective of what really is important and what really has value.
And time moves on. Like you just kind of, for some people, I imagine I've seen this like on when people sell stuff, they have it all. It's done. Like they completed the whole run of the thing. They have it all. And then they're just like, all right, I'm just gonna get rid of it now. There's some people who could do that.
Yeah, I know people who do that as well. They collect the things, they get all the things, and they're like, all right, collection's complete. And then they sell it if there's value to it, or they'll pass it along to somebody else.
Yeah.
I think also that truly, from my experience, rests in I want to use the right word, what other things they could deal with or buy or fill in, right? A lot of people who've accumulated have accumulated because they've had more success or they have more financial, freedom. So it's easier to let go of things when you are free of certain other aspects of that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And it also becomes tricky, the thing where you have to, and you've said this a few times while we've been talking, dealing with yourself. Like for a lot of people, that's an identity crisis, not to have the thing that they collect, not to be the collector of this. Like it's no longer part of who you are. And it should have never been. I think most people would understand that, but it somehow is. And that could be a little bit, it could give a little bit of anxiety, I would think. It's not just like, I need to clear my space. It's like, I need to rethink who I am. And
Or
that's a hard thing to kind of confront when you are there to organize their life and declutter and give them peace of mind.
yeah,
It's like two different ideas that you have to compete with.
yeah, you're grappling with that. And it's not even also, it's like the rethinking of who I am. It's more of like reevaluate
Mm,
who I want to be now.
hmm hmm
Reevaluate on why I was connected to that. For example, this is a great example. I did collect something. When I was in high school, I was obsessed with Absolute vodka ads.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you're familiar with the
Of
Absolute vodka,
course.
right? It was the first time a company truly took advertising to the next level. It was art, right? That didn't happen. It didn't happen before then. So I became obsessed with collecting Absolute vodka ads. I would go to the libraries, and you'd have to go to the card catalog lady and say, "Hey, I want to check out this magazine." Right? I would check out magazines, and I would rip the articles out, the ads out of the magazines from the library. This is how obsessed I was, because you couldn't find some of them; they were out of print. So eventually, I got to this place in my collection where I had like almost every Absolute vodka ad you could find that was in
hmm
print,
hmm
and it was in a book, like yay thick pages. It looked good.
hmm
And then one day I was like, what am I doing with this book? It's up space. Like, it used to be cool when I had them all. It was like wallpaper on my walls. It was
Uh-huh.
so beautiful to look at when I was in high school. And then one day I was like, screw it, and I scanned them all.
Uh-huh.
I scanned them all. That's another thing most people don't think about, is like the digital space now.
Mhm.
So I removed the collection from the paper collection from my life because it took up space, that I didn't want it taking up space in my life. And
Did you take it
now
to NYU? Did you take your notebook to NYU?
it,
Was
I
your
did,
roommate like, what is this?
yes, the absolute, the ones that everyone loved hung in the room. And then
Yeah.
one day it was like, this is absurd, right?
You
Like,
didn't
wow.
collect the bottles, you collected the ads. I remember people who collected those ads.
I did collect some other paraphernalia that was absolute, like rare things that you would find. And eventually, actually, at one point, I did start collecting the bottles because they started
Right.
creating these like one of a kind or X amount of a kind
Yeah.
bottles.
Yeah.
And then my friend Phil and I would buy them for each other. And then one day he sold his whole collection for like a good amount of money.
The bottles?
All of it. The
Really?
bottles, the bartending paraphernalia, the posters, the ads, he sold it all. And I was like, well, what do I need this stuff for anymore? It was really just kind of this like camaraderie type thing between me and my best friend.
Yeah.
And then I scanned them all. And now I have like a really beautiful collection of ads that I could one day do anything with.
You mean the on digitally you have?
Yes,
You could just put those online somewhere for other people to enjoy and sift through as a database.
correct. And I also one day, maybe I'm going to have a home one day that has a guest house
Hmm
and a guest bathroom that no one's ever going to look at. I'm going to make wallpaper with
That
it.
would be cool.
Right. So the reason why I brought it up is, one, I claim that I really didn't collect anything, and I actually did. And two, there can be an evolution to the collection, right? We might not know it yet, but allowing room for that to happen is also beautiful in its right
Yes.
mind, because
Right.
then it's evolving with you, rather than, as you said, some things hold people back and they feel like they're connected to this idea of who they are.
Yes.
So that's a really good example of, the morph into where it could go.
Right. You're not the absolute vodka guy.
I was,
So much more than that.
right? I was, but
Yes.
now it's like, okay, I have a file, it's backed up, and it's also backed up on another drive. I could pull
Uh-huh.
it up in 30 seconds, show you all the ads if I wanted to show it to you. But like, there's no other purpose for it now. And I'm okay having the digital, it's more of a digital clutter now
Right.
than the physical clutter.
Yeah, there's something about it being on a shelf too. Like the space that it takes up. It's some people just, I mean, like seeing
Especially
like
when you can't see it. It's there, and by the way, we didn't talk about this aspect of it, but like, energetically, stuff has energy,
yeah, for sure.
right? And we
Absolutely.
bring that with us. So I don't think enough people really think about that.
It's I don't know if it's the current state of affairs where we're out of a pandemic or something where we had a moment of mass accumulation or not, but there's a lot of stuff being made. Like there's a lot of stuff that's, and the way that they're marketing it is encouraging overconsumption,
Yeah.
especially for people who collect things, especially like, you know, even people that are able to get expensive watches now, like they're really like
The
the
thing, you know,
companies of people who are enthusiasts about things are really digging deep into holding on to their demo, their customers. They really are in a very aggressive way. There's a lot of stuff being put out now. There's a lot of stuff for sale now.
there is.
There's a lot of like rare stuff. Like there's just like a lot of stuff that is pushed on people these days, especially, and if you have the bug to like want to have things.
Yeah, because everything's available.
Yes.
Everything's available. You could sell anything online.
Yes.
People sell themselves online.
Yes.
Right. So why wouldn't they be selling their McDonald's action figures that they don't use anymore, or their Absolute Vodka collection, or their Tamagotchis, or whatever? And we're in a time when you and I grew up, we had dial-up internet. It just started, right? Remember Prodigy? You could buy a car on Prodigy. It was really interesting how that worked. But now we're all connected to everything.
And there's no longer like, where'd you get that sort of thing?
No, because you could type it online and you could find 100 places.
It.
So the allure of that has changed significantly too, which is why I also see the marketplace for collecting shifting, right? At least watches, which you've brought up a couple times, that marketplace is not changing in terms of how people buy, sell, acquire, trade.
It's also utility. Like, yes, there are fancy watch collectors, which is so I get it. Yeah. But there at least there's a utility, you know?
Yeah. Yes. Practicality. Whereas again, as you're saying, like, not practical.
If you wanted to get rid of those, you lose money and you lose like storage time too. Like this is just pure joy for you, which is amazing. Like that, you can't discount that. But eventually, like there are some personality types, and I could see myself doing that. Not specifically like the McDonald's little chicken nugget package.
But I'm not buying every McDonald's thing ever invented. These were the only things that truly brought joy to me, right?
Does that remind you of like a Coral Springs McDonald's beautiful day out? You might have just gone to like see a good movie.
Yeah, it reminds me of my grandma picking me up in the mornings on the days that my mom couldn't take me to school, and she would take me to McDonald's in the morning for breakfast right before I went to Ramblewood Middle. And I think it reminded me of my grandma.
Yeah.
And why not? You know, like I'd rather have these out than like 6 pictures of my grandma and like her China collection that I'm never going to use.
Right.
You know? Right. So it's just moving that emotional connection into something different that serves me more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have behind you in those cabinets? Can I put you on the spot?
Oh, sure.
Is that storage?
It's all storage.
Okay.
The left, I mean, I could open it, but the left side is all like, here, I'll show you. I mean,
come on. Let's see it.
This is one bin here of childhood memorabilia.
Oh, so you do keep it around. You just have it in one spot.
One spot. And by the way, one bin of childhood memorabilia. So if we're going to get at it, like, bro.
Yeah. You need to hold on to that.
Like, who uses binoculars anymore? But I have a pair of binoculars. And then, like, if I really get deep into it.
Is that your baby blanket?
My baby bunny that I would hold, right?
Right.
Like, this is from my bar mitzvah.
What does that say? Oh, you got an award?
Yeah. Everyone got this. I think everyone got this.
Yeah.
Like, who the hell wants this? Like, this goes deep, bro. Like, you know, and again, this is one bin. Most people have like, at least my clients, 20 of these things.
Yeah.
I kept my first cell phone. Dude, remember this phone?
Oh, wow.
I think I'm going to get a SIM for it soon and just start using this.
Wow. Yeah.
You know,
those
like
the days. Some people collect Apple products.
You know, like this is a yo-yo, I think. Yeah, it's a sterling silver yo-yo. When I was on the show Guiding Light,
They gave that as a gift?
Yeah, they gave me a Tiffany yo-yo with my character's name, Joey Lupo, engraved into it. I don't even really like. I don't know what to do with it, I guess.
Throw it in the water like my brother.
And then at the bottom of this are like, there's Time magazine with Obama on front, and the magazine from when Michael Jackson died from,
Yeah.
but that's
I
really,
have some 9/11 newspapers.
oh yeah. I got, that's in a different place. I have not only 9/11 newspapers.
Oh, it's 9/12. I have 9/12 newspapers.
I have the 9/12, but the rest of these cabinets are office supplies, camera gear, accessories, audio cables, first aid, and then up here, really simple, games.
Yep.
On the right, that's it. Postage supplies, and then I have copies of like my book that I need to have, as well as like, dude, you're gonna love this. Couldn't get rid of it. Do you remember this? Micro machines.
Are those like, are they all in like a little box? Oh boy.
I have my original micro machines.
Boom. There you go.
Like, so this goes kind of like with what you were saying. It's like these are things that reminded me of my childhood that, like, I don't know, maybe there's no like I'm gonna sell them one day, but I guess I could look up online and be like, how much do micro machines cost?
There's somebody out there in the world whose life is burdened by micro machines.
I bet. And then
they have to have the micro machines that they sold not only in America or whatever country that they're in, but the other micro machines in the packages from the other countries. There's people like that, dude. Are those Game Boy cartridges?
Original Game Boy cartridges. Because I still have a Game Boy that I use. Every morning I play Tetris.
Yep.
So I have these.
On a Game Boy, Justin? OG.
OG.
Wow.
And then on the side over here is just like extra heavy coats. I mean, we live in LA.
Right.
So I don't need winter coats downstairs.
Right.
So it's like everything. Oh, I actually left this out. I'm going to keep this on my desk now.
There you go.
But for me, everything has a place in my home. It's not, everything's been thought about. And I will go through my home every 6 months just for the sake of like looking into spaces that I haven't looked at to be, oh, right, I might not need this anymore, or I can sell this or whatever.
Yeah.
In fact, after this interview, this thing, I'm going to go online and see how much people are selling their micro machines for.
Get rid of those.
Or another thing that a lot of people don't think about doing is creating something with it.
Yeah.
Right. So like my whole desk here, I'll take this off to show you. And there are a lot of people that would hate me for it, but like, remember garbage pail kits?
Yes. I've seen this desk of yours. You want to know the first thing I thought of when I saw that desk? Because you have them all laminated down onto the surface, right? And then covered with glass.
Yeah.
First thing I thought of is like, oh man, he ruined all those cards. But it looks good.
And it's practical. I did it so long ago that now I'm like, I've gotten so much great use out of the garbage kids. So regardless if Atom Bomb is in here and could sell for $700, it's like, okay, well, how much would a desk cost if I was going to have a desk built for my office?
You still have that. That's good. It's lasted you a long time.
Oh yeah. I built
an old desk. You've had that for a long time. That's held up.
Desk in 2011.
Yeah.
So that's a great example of taking something that was memorabilia or valuable and being like, all right, well, these cards are sitting in a binder. Am I going to sell them or do something with them? So I think the micro machine thing was one day I was going to make like a small side table and like put the micro machines at the top, epoxy it, and have them as the top of the table.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So much dust. Oh man. The little like grooves. Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be worth a thing.
I don't think so.
I wish there was somebody that needed to have all the micro machines in the world. There's really not.
I don't think so either.
Justin, what would you say to convince somebody to just get rid of it all day? I know you are sympathetic and empathetic to somebody who genuinely loves the stuff that they have and the stuff that they collected, but they say, I need to move on and I need tough love. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say, what do you want to make room for? I would say, what do you want space for in your life? And then let them sit in that for a little bit. And if they have the room for it and it's not taking up space and it's really not messing with their flow, I won't argue. But if they're in a space that's cluttered and they need room to grow and they have a family that's growing, then you bring up the family. You're like, well, how is this affecting your wife? How is this affecting your daughter? How is this affecting you? Is it affecting you? And then you just kind of let them sit in it for a little bit. And then they get to make decisions all on their own because they're adults. But I think that's where you start.
I love it. Bravo. I'm selling all my stuff right now. I'm going to do it.
Of
No, I've been thinking about it. No, no, no. There's stuff that I do love. There's stuff that I do love, and there's stuff that I
course.
do love adding to. But there's also a lot of stuff that I just haven't had out for a long time, and it's in a box. Like I need to just get rid of some stuff.
Yeah. And I think what you do, Adam, is you start with the space that's around you, right? Like you look around, every room is separate, but all of our stuff is conglomerate. So if you have things that are the same in all different spaces, bring them together and start assessing out of all of that topic or subject, what's valuable to you.
Yeah.
And then as we go back to the puzzle, treat it like a puzzle, you know? And I'm telling you, letting go of the things that aren't serving you anymore and creating room for things that could is so it's so valuable and it's so euphoric. But you got to get over the hump of the first jump, because it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel super uncomfortable, and you're going to doubt yourself, and you're going to doubt the process, and you're going to think, oh, but God, I don't know why I should do. But none of it really matters at the end of the day.
You just nailed it right there. None of it matters.
None of it
None of
really
it matters.
It matters to you in the moment when you're feeling a certain way, but none of it really matters.
No. Bravo.
Nothing really matters. Anyone can see. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters to me.